The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Wednesday, the 17th day of July, 2024. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. I'm Jamal Hartman, and Teo Dill will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in this news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. All right, folks, happy Wednesday to you. It's hump day, middle of the week. A lot to discuss today, but how's everyone feeling? We are another day closer to St. George's getting our cup back. We are another day closer to Bermuda's next gold medal. And for the parents, another day closer to school going in. I know students are just like, school just got out. Give us a break. Give us a break. I know. But summer. I hope all the young people are having fun in summer camp. I know my niece, she said she's doing a sewing camp night. It's just creative. She likes that. So hopefully there's some real cool things out there that all the young people get to enjoy and are doing it in some safe temperatures. I heard it's really hot out there, audience. I heard it's really, the heat is on in Bermuda right now. So hopefully everyone's staying safe. All right. Greetings, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today, as we welcome Assistant Commissioner of Police Antoine on to the show. We're going to be discussing, the current state of gun violence and, what's being done to help resolve this and, the relationship between the community and the community's role in all of this. So don't miss this conversation. The daily play is music related. So as you can see, I don't have a co-host today. So someone will get this answer today, hopefully, and be eligible for this week's prize in the Friday draw. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. All right. Well, let's get right to it because some of you all are very upset. Very upset. Oh, I saw your social media post yesterday. Just because I don't post as much anymore doesn't mean that I don't observe. Yeah, I observe. So it seems like Bermudians are very upset. And I'm just going to read from our friends over at the Royal Gazette. It says, regulator approves 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024. Yeah, it's basically the regulatory authority has approved an increase in Belco's allowed revenue that will result in an 8% increase in consumer bills. Belco had applied for a proposed allowed revenue of, well, is that $289,483,785 for 2024? But after a retail tariff review, the RA approved it at $265,540,307, a decrease of approximately $24 million. For 2025, that figure was $164,066,055, down almost $25 million from that proposed by Belco. The base rate, which is exclusive, of fuel costs and is a subject of the RA's review, would increase by 13.79% on the implementation date of 2024, down from Belco's applied for 30.3% increase. It will then go up by 3.7% in 2025. All right. So about 75% of residential customers use up to an average of 555 kilowatts monthly. For those, the rise will roughly equate to $20 per month effective August 1st. All right. So $20 per month. Let's go down. They've got some more things that about the driving factors behind the 23 and 24 increase. An increase in rate of return from 7.71% in 2023 approved to 7.79% for both 2024 and 2025. Increase primarily related to the rise in interest rates. Belco applied for 10.14%, which was a 41% increase in rate of return. So let's stop there. And let's just get to the question of the morning. And audience, this is an important one because so many people were up in arms about this increase. If you've just tuned in, just make sure you give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share a conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. All right. So the question of the morning, what are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024? What are your thoughts on that? And also, let's do something different. On a scale of 1 through 5, with 5 being the most angry, how angry are you at the increase in your Belco bill? On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being, the angriest, how angry are you at the increase in your Belco bill? How angry are you at the increase in your Belco bill? Do you care? Does it matter to you? Do you understand, you know what? This is just business. I just have to figure out a way to make that extra $20 or find a way to cut that $20 somewhere else. Maybe I won't get apples and oranges this week. But what are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024? And also, how angry maybe you're not angry. So if you're not angry, maybe 1 or 0. But what are your thoughts? Suzanne Ingham says, awesome Wednesday, Jamal, and an awesome Wednesday to you as well. Janet Maynard says, good morning, all, and a good morning, all, to you as well. But what are your thoughts on the increase hike? What are your thoughts, and how angry are you? What are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024, and how angry are you on a scale of 1 through 5? Here's the thing. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. I'm very wary of what I pay for utilities. I am very conscious of it, right? And I tell you guys all the time, I try not to complain about the price of things. I sometimes the price is the price, and you kind of have to figure out on your own, how can you cut back? How can you make more money to cover this? Like, what can you do as an individual? But sometimes it's more than that. It's beyond your control, right? I think every business exists to drive revenue and make a profit, right? That's why they exist. They're not charities. But at some point, there has to be a balance, because if you break everyone, who's going to be able to pay? So you've got to ask yourself, someone suggested one time, they said everyone should just not pay their Belco bill and see what happens. I tell you what, everyone will be in darkness. Maybe the company. I mean, you ever heard the saying about a casino, the house always wins? That's kind of how I feel in these situations. But there's a bigger thing to this, right? This is bigger than this. I saw a tweet yesterday where someone was saying, I feel for a single parent. How is a single parent supposed to survive in Bermuda when everything is just going up? And it reminds me of what, so many people have said, like the capitalism as we know it was built for the nuclear family. It was built for minimum two income households. So I do feel for single people, especially single parents. It's tough. It's really tough. But what are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024? And also, on a scale of 1 to 5, how angry are you at the increase in your Belco bill? Well, Suzanne Ingham, she's a 5. She's extremely angry at the increase. She's extremely angry. Who else? Anyone else? How angry are you? And again, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the hike? Teo Dill says, I will always be confused about how a business providing an essential service that they own a monopoly on gets jammed up financially. I think, I think about that. And what happens is, again, these businesses exist to make more money. So they take on other things and more debt and finance and so on. And they put themselves in danger. And that's then put on to the consumer. Yeah. How angry, folks, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the angriest, how angry are you at the increase in your Belco bill? Manuela John says she's a 4. She's a 4. Teodil says, this is not a Bermuda specific problem. See the UK water industry. One of the top line election issues was there being consistent water outages and poop in the rivers and ocean. Yeah, it's not Bermuda specific. Teo, thank you for saying that. But what are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024? What does this mean for Bermuda? It's interesting because the other day we were discussing, solutions to the violent crime and so on, and we spoke about, dealing with the inequities, like the root causes is, it's easy to say that, it's, black men and black men, but it's so much deeper than that. The inequities that lead to we spoke about the single parent. If there's a single parent who has to work multiple jobs just to be able to, feed her children or his children or pay his or her bills, it's tough because who's then going to be there raising the child or helping them with homework or, attending, dance or football with them? These are the kind of things that the inequities that bring about some of the social ills that we're facing. And we have to see the correlation with this stuff. How does the increase in Belco bills correlate and impact our young people? Let's not forget that, with all these big businesses like hotels closing and the like, things change, right? Your biggest hotel, that was a big contributor to the economy. If the lights are turned off, there's so much at play, folks. There's so much at play. Again, if you've tuned in, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share this conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. But what are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024? And how angry are you on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the angriest? Janet Maynard says, a 5, prices go up. However, the service is the same. Electricity shut down in the middle of my cooking on Saturday and no answer or apologies from these folks. It's sad. It's very sad. I always say it's always interesting to me that when a hurricane comes and people get their lights back on, they praise Belco. And it's just so weird to me, right? It's so weird to me because I'm like, this is not about the Belco workers. This is no disrespect to them. We appreciate you and you're putting your lives on the line out there. But we celebrate people for doing their job. That's crazy to me. We celebrate people. And this is, I said some years ago, Taylor and I, when I left Top 107.5, I gave a final, I guess, speech, right? And I said in that, one of our problems is we reward children for doing what they should be doing. Think about that. What are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills? Charles H. Jefferson II, he says, I would love to know if profits are projected to increase as well, and how much of those profits are being paid to overseas persons / entities. Our economy is strangled. This is an iffy one because we are technically a capitalist economy, right, Charles? So truthfully, we allow people to come do business here. They can do what they want with their profits, right? But maybe this time to relook at that. One of my biggest issues working in Bermuda tourism was the fact that almost everyone at the top level was non-Bermudian, and they were being paid the big bucks. That money wasn't circulating in our economy. So I get it. And these are questions that we need answers to. What are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024? This is a conversation I think everyone should be having because, again, there's an election coming up soon, right? No, not the US election, the Bermuda one, which you all should be very aware of and paying attention to. But there's an election coming up soon within the next year and a half, 2 years. And these are things that you should be talking about with your members of parliament or, constituency reps or whoever's running with you. These are the things you should be discussing. There's crime, there's education, there's the cost of living, the ability to be able to provide for yourself and your family. Just the other day, we were speaking about volunteerism, right? And I said, we just can't expect people to volunteer their time anymore because so many people are just trying to get by and live and survive and provide for their families. Some people, the best that they can do for their community is pay taxes, and that's okay because it's a struggle right now. It's a struggle. And we've got to understand it. What are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills for 2024? Shamari Sky says, I don't feel mad. I feel incentivized to look for alternative green energy options. Sometimes you have to be made uncomfortable before you make a change. I love this brother, man. And I think the point of this is, and I always say at this point in my life, I try to turn my anger into inspiration. And I'm motivated by things, right? I agree with you, brother. I think that sometimes just let's turn that anger into ways that, you know what? You want to increase this? I'm going to get some solar. Or I'm going to reduce my air conditioning use and use some small fans that I can get at one of the local stores for a couple dollars. I mean, I live in South Florida. It's pretty hot and humid. And until my apartment complex told me early this year that I need to turn my AC on because it's a dehumidifier as well, I bought some cheap fan on Amazon, and that's what keep me cool, man. Now, there's rumors that when I lived in the Northeast, I would have people visit me and during the winter, and I wouldn't turn the heat on. Well, those rumors are true. They're true. Because a brother's got a budget. So if you were cold in my apartment, just put on clothes. Yeah. It's not about being cheap. It's about being frugal, folks. It's about being frugal. All right. What else, audience? What are your thoughts? What do you think? What are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike in Belco bills? Like how do you feel? Do you think that this is the way to go? Do you believe that government should be more involved and write some policies or legislation that controls this and looks out for the general public in this respect? Suzanne Ingham says, you have to have money for green. It's a great idea, but who can afford it? You know what? We've had people from the BAC group on to discuss this. I think it's one of those things, Suzanne, where you have to weigh the actual money, right? So how much your next 12 Belco bill is going to be versus how much is the initial purchase of something to go solar and green energy going to be, and then what your bills are likely to be over the next 12 months. So I think a long-term comparison may be needed in that regard. Teo Dills says, shout out to Shamari, tax improvement. If the government wants to quickly put pressure on Belco, make it that much easier to get solar panels, renewable options for private citizens, and new energy suppliers. I think that's brilliant. And maybe this is what the conversations the government should be having with the general public. Do some town halls about green energy and solar. And that leads to Jen McCarran, who says they need to clean up the pollution they have created before any increases should be considered. I love this. And I'm going to keep this on the screen for a minute. There should be some conditions. There should be some conditions. I mean, look, the people around there have been crying out for help. Showing the roofs, the black salt on the roofs, and it's been bad. What is Belco's commitment to the people in those areas? Thank you for that, Jen McCarran. Thank you for that. Anything else, audience, before we go over to Teo? Anything else? What are your thoughts on the approved 8% hike and Belco bills for 2024? Anything else? let's bring Teodil in, but do us a favor. It's about to get very interesting as we bring in the commissioner of assistant commissioner of police, Antoine Daniels. We're going to be talking about the current state of violence in Bermuda, what we, the community, and the police can do to help resolve these issues. But let's bring Teodil in for the Daily Hour news break, and after that, Assistant Commissioner Daniels on for a conversation to engage you.
Morning, Jay. Morning, family. Very, very good to be able to spend some time with you this morning. I'm grateful, Jay, as ever. You have exercised marvelous discretion in choosing the conversation this morning, because this is something that I think we really need to think about.
I agree.
Our a community, just like any other small community, that gets sort of locked into a framework for reality, right? Like, this is what it always has been, and therefore this is what it's always going to be. And the frustrating thing about that is, and forgive me, because I might sound a little more pointed about this than I typically try to be, but I mentioned in the chat, I have never understood how an essential service provider that has a monopoly on the industry continues to function in a way, to hear them tell it, just to keep their bills covered. They have to consistently raise the prices. Like, on average, how much money you're going to be making every year, because it's not like a restaurant or like a clothing store, like something that people get when they feel like it. If there's this many houses on the island, they're all going to be wired up. They're all going to need about this much electricity, so you can predict your budgeting like way out. And I just don't understand how this doesn't.
It's almost like they're hoping for something, even though they know the likelihood of it happening isn't. So they then turn to the RA, say, "Well, look, we need this," and seems like although the RA is not granting them seemingly the amount they're asking, they're still giving them something, It's not good. But I think I like Shamari Sky's thing about, I think maybe it's time to have a conversation with the government about easing up and allowing some green energy and solar to the island, more options for people. Have some town halls on educating people on how to do it, but it's long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely right. And speaking of the government, Deputy Premier and Home Affairs Minister Walter Raban responded in a very sharp way to the news that electricity prices are going to go up 8% as of August 1st. The RA, as Jay has been taking you through so far this morning, approved the average 8% increase to local power bills, and Minister Raban called the hike a severe blow to residents already struggling under the crushing weight of high costs, which, as you'll recall, could have been worse since Belco originally asked for an almost 30% increase. Minister Raban, as I said, made his views clear, saying, quote, "The RA's actions under the guise of future investments show a blatant disregard for the current suffering of many in our community," which I think is unambiguously true.
I wonder what caucus is like, seeing as his colleague is the president of the parent company of Belco.
Well, if only we could transform into flies and go stick on the wall. You know what I mean? I'm sure those are interesting discussions.
Well, by the way, and I'm not trying to be that person, but do you remember which constituency Wayne Keynes is?
No, I'm terrible with constituencies.
Okay. So let's just say, Teo, that maybe everyone in his constituency has a Belco bill. Logic would say, how could I vote for the person who's the president of the parent company? That's really drying my account. But something tells me that logic doesn't play a role.
Yeah, I think it's partly like I guess started off with, we just accept the premise, right? Like, Belco has basically lit and heated and cooled our homes for generations. And I think we believe that is simply the way it should always be. So if they need a little extra financial support from us, well, it must be worth it, because they wouldn't ask if it wasn't the case.
Real quickly, it reminds me, I think it was Gonzalo and Faye. Was that in 2014 or 2015? Anybody? But there's two hurricanes. When those two hurricanes hit back to back, I remember thinking, this was a godsend. Like, this was everything that the OBA and BTA under Bill Henberry needed. And then they made this video of the island coming together for a hurricane, right? After a hurricane. Belco, in my opinion, literally thrives on that kind of stuff because it gets the community on their side. And it's unfortunate because I think, to your point, people have very short memories. Look, just because someone does something nice doesn't mean they're a nice person,
Yeah, and there's a gap, I think, as far as how our relationship should work. We should always be supportive of the workers, like the people who actually come out in the dangerous conditions, go up in the sky, the live voltage that could set them on fire. Like, those folks deserve nothing. They have earned nothing other than genuine ongoing support. But that's not the critique, right? Like, those folks are not the ones taking these decisions. They're probably not even contributing in any significant way to these decisions. What I also went on to investigate after the story, I was like, can I find a country, like a developed country, that has opposite power pricing dynamics, where prices aren't going up, rather they are coming down? Well, Spain. Their electricity prices have been dropping for years. And in fact, electricity usage from the grid has gone down to the lowest rate in 2 decades. It's all due to their, just frankly, socialist government's comprehensive commitment to supporting renewable energy in a big way. However, and this may make you laugh and annoy you, this has led to an entirely different problem for Spain that you almost certainly would not have anticipated.
Concern is that these low energy prices, while good for consumers, could deter investment. One way of preventing this imbalance is to move further away from traditional fuels. Despite Spain's relative success in making the green transition, much of the economy still depends on fossil fuels. Becoming more reliant on electricity, the so-called electrification of the economy, is seen as a way of securing cleaner energy, but also of increasing the demand for the generation of electricity.
Interesting.
Yeah, like, they did renewables so well that the fossil fuel folks are asking for government bailouts, which sounds like completely counterintuitive. Like, how could an energy supplier need to be propped up by the state? But this is what happens when you commit on a national level to an alternative way to approach day-to-day reality.
I wonder if we can send that to our folks, our government, and when I say government, all politicians, to get an understanding of how it can be done.
Well, there is a whole bunch of scholarship on the subject, because Spain committed to this a couple of decades ago. And so if you want, we can draft an email with appropriate citations and footnotes. That's the kind of thing I love. So if you're with it, we'll talk about it after the show.
They like you more than me. Just make sure it's signed Teodil.
Yes, sir. Well, speaking of government / aspiring government, under a free democratic movement government, no schools will be closed. This from FDM Representative Omar Dill at a live streamed education-centric press briefing the party had yesterday afternoon.
We unequivocally assure all Bermudians that no schools will be closed. I repeat. Our steadfast plan is to enhance our community by encouraging Bermudians currently residing overseas to return home, and by making our island attractive to new residents. This bold vision to rejuvenate our economy includes significant improvements to existing educational facilities, as well as the revitalization of recently closed schools.
Now, I got something that follows up from that same conference from the leader of the FDM, Mark Bean, who explained the party's position further, saying that the government's rationale for closing schools as a response to the population decline and financial constraints, it's basically inadequate to justify such a significant action like closing schools.
He will say that it's a rationale that's been presented because of poor governance and leadership. And so we cannot start when we're talking about strengthening and helping the country from a pessimistic point of view. And the government's approach to education at this time is very much steeped in pessimism. And so when we looked at the numbers, we looked at the budget, and we realized that human capital, our children in particular, is more important than anything in the world. And so numbers, and cost, while we have to be fiscally prudent, should not take precedent over the cultivation of the minds and the thinking of our young people.
I need to read more or understand it more. We may have them on the show tomorrow, but I don't think it's about the school buildings remaining open. I think that last point, it's about the education being received. So, I need to understand more the logic behind keeping schools open versus focusing on the actual academia.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I had a similar reaction myself, and what I always do if I don't understand something, I just start Googling. So based on this question, like, how does our 18 public primary schools compare with similarly sized islands, right? Like, is it weird that we have as many schools as we do? Well, turns out it is a little weird. Cayman's got 10 public primary schools. The Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, has 10. Guernsey's got 15. All of these countries are simultaneously experiencing population increases. So it is a little odd. And then finally, this is the thing that I always try to remind folks of when it comes to this conversation about public school closures. We have always had twice the amount of public primary school inventory than our population needed. You remember why? Segregation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The only reason we needed this many schools was because of white supremacy, right? Because of institutional racism. So I think it's a moral imperative, like a necessity, to at least discuss closing schools, because they never should have been that way in the first place. But that bit never comes up.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. And I think that's what the West End Warriors were speaking on, if I'm not mistaken.
That was part of it. Yeah. Well, and finally, I got one last political story. Dion Smith has been confirmed as the One Bermuda Alliance's candidate for Warwick North Central Constituency 27. He's going to be facing off, presumably, against the PLP's current MP and Minister of Public Works, Lieutenant Colonel David Birch, in the constituency. Dion has built and maintained a successful tech business while also engaging in public service as a former Bermuda Telecoms Commissioner on the Regulatory Authority and as a past board director of the Adult Education School.
Big up to Dion's prize. But real quickly, no, Colonel's retiring, so he won't be going to get.
Oh, okay, cool. So I don't know that his replacement has been announced yet.
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Also,
I'm very interested. Weather-wise, it just like you mentioned at the top of the show, it's going to stay hot. It's going to stay humid for the next 48 hours due to the ongoing dominance of the Bermuda high. Now, that means the temperatures will be floating around 85 degrees on the thermometer, that they're going to feel closer to like 96. So you crack your AC, bro. Like, you're going to need it today. Wind is down, ain't going to do it.
Real quickly, days of the year. Folks, audience, let us know your favorite emoji. It's World Emoji Day. Try telling a story or sending a text using just emojis and see how much you can communicate through these expressive little pictographs. So, Teo, audience, what is your favorite emoji? What's your favorite emoji?
Honestly, I'm a little embarrassed about this because it makes me feel old.
You are.
I don't like emojis. Well, yeah, it's true. I don't like emojis. Like I resisted using them at all for years. Like, I only really started using them maybe 4 years ago. And even then, I only choose from like 3, like the smiley face, the smoochy face, and the crying face. That's it.
You sound like an emotional brother. So real quickly, actually, David Brett, in his early premier days, I only used to like communicate with him a lot in emojis. So he'd be like can you not? Yeah, he'd be like, what does that mean? Can you like type? And the emoji I used to use the most was when dealing with him. Right? Like, what does that mean? But I did that because I prefer emoji. No, seriously, true story. Emojis help me to stop cursing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
Using foul language. So, but my favorite emoji is actually the heart, the black heart. I send that to everyone.
You absolutely do. And this is how you're gonna know how old I am. I've been wanting to use that black heart too, but I don't know where to get it.
Oh my goodness, this brother. Taylor, you know how to turn your emojis like to your well, you are kind of
no. I knew he was going here.
No, I was just saying you could. Your skin's lighter, so it doesn't.
Bro,
really
look at these arms. You see this? Deep, rich mahogany. Good furniture.
Taylor, we have a guest coming up. I'm gonna let you in the mirror look at yourself. Hey, have a great day.
Take care, man. Appreciate you.
Talk soon. All right, Taylor Dill, folks. Don't go anywhere. We've got the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Antoine Daniels, coming up. 2 minutes, 27 seconds. Don't miss this conversation. Make sure you give us a like, a love, and make sure you share it with your friends, your family, colleagues. Stick with us.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's, I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
It took 14 days to build your business plan. 6 months to build the courage to leave your day job. 3 weeks to find the perfect location. It took 10 days to outfit your space just right. And 1 day before your first client walked in the door. All totaled, it took you a full year to get your business operational. And this is just the beginning. To the entrepreneurs, the risk takers, the people that shape our economic community, we salute you and are here for you every step of the way. BEDC, providing knowledgeable, progressive, professional, and innovative support to Bermuda businesses.
Summer is almost here. Dive into the season with dog floats and dog pools. Enjoy 20% off West Paul's dog floating toys and shop our life jackets for safety in the water this summer. Get all your summer needs before the holidays and events begin. Don't forget to stock up on poo bags and check out Dicky Bags, the poo bag holder that locks in the smell until you can dispose of it. Remember, even dogs need sunblock, so visit Noah's Ark today, Bermuda's most trusted animal supply store for all your summer essentials, and ask us about our rewards program.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. I'm Jamel Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical Wells, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. A bit behind time, but we'll make up for it. Let's give a warm TDH welcome to Assistant Commissioner of Police, Antoine Daniels. Greetings, sir. How are you?
Morning, Jamal. How are you?
I'm wonderful. The crowd's going crazy for you. They haven't seen you in a while.
I hear you.
Or bad. We had some very good conversations on this show. Have to do with what I would call bad things. I mean, some of it's just pure education, but always a pleasure to have the police involved and on this platform to have trusted conversations. So thank you for joining us.
Well, it's great to be here.
But let's just jump right into it. During a press conference recently, you stated that Bermuda had experienced 7 murders since May 24th. What are the connections, if any, in these cases, and what updates can you provide at this time as it relates to those murder investigations?
Yeah, first of all, let me just start by saying good morning to your listening audience. Yes, on the 24th of May, or Bermuda Day, this is when this all would have kicked off, unfortunately. But I think right now I just want to start to say that it's important that we have these open and frank conversations. It's nice to be able to appear to a wider community audience on your show, because awareness, I think, is key in tackling these type of problems. And in the absence of the information being shared by the various agencies, the police being one of them, people tend to create their own narrative, right? So that's very important. And then the other important thing for me is I want to begin by extending sincere condolences to those persons who have lost their loved ones, particularly more recently, the Garland family, the Robinsons, the Parfits. Unfortunately, it was 3 in one family, and of course the Trim family. So sincere condolences to all of them. And as you said, I reported in the media last year, we experienced 7 murders. And for me, when I, being kind of behind the scenes and knowing a lot of the circumstances behind these 7 senseless murders, I just believe more than anything they all could have been avoided. When you look at the circumstances, in terms of when you say are they connected, it's still early. There is nothing in the investigation at this particular time that indicates that these matters are connected. And one other thing I just want to say, just to alleviate some of maybe the fear and the curiosity in the community, that in the murder that happened on the 7th of July, when we had the 4 and 9-year-old kids killed and the 39-year-old mother, the police are not at this time searching for any suspects. So that case, I think, is pretty much resolved, although we are still trying to get to the bottom of why such a tragic thing could happen in our small island community. I can't hear you, Jamal. I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I keep pressing buttons, but no, I was saying thank you for the updates. And I think, as you stated, on behalf of everyone part of this show, we definitely send condolences to the families, but also, support. And that's what I think people are looking for in the community, the support, especially before incidents like this happen. So just can you explain how the police are actually targeting antisocial behavior as they focus on reducing crime? Because I know in our space, I said last week that, look, sometimes the innocent have to suffer for the guilty, and the police stopping people on their way to work. I mean, I didn't want to say it, but we have to say it. There, some people who are going to 9-to-5 jobs have good positions, maybe harboring certain people. Certain people may be living with them. They may be using their vehicles. I don't know. Just something that could be of why the police may be doing their searches, but just saying how the police are going about, doing the work, and what that looks like to the public.
Sure. First of all, I neglected to say my apologies that last week, some of you will be aware, last week Thursday night we had a horrible psycho accident in St. David, Southside. 24-year-old male who was in critical condition. Unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries. So condolences to his family, as well as another young male that we've lost, unfortunately. In terms of tackling antisocial behavior, as you know, this is a complex problem that's not only in Bermuda. It's kind of in our Western society. As we look across our news day to day, you would see that there are these problems across the world with violence, being raised. And one of the things that kind of concerns me a little bit as I move around the country is it's almost like we have this expectation um, that violence is going to occur. We actually set up for it, and you almost see it in how people behave and react. You know, lots of people now have resorted to, hey, I'm not even leaving my house. I'm going to work. I'm going to home. I'm going to the grocery store and doing the key things that they have to do to sustain life, and they have just not, really going out in a really social sense. So it's almost like we've built in this expectation of violence, which is really, really quite concerning. In terms of the police targeting violence, we do a lot of things. We're what we're called intelligence-led organization. So we rely on information and intelligence to deploy our men and women. Um, one of the big things for us is we don't have a great deal of people, despite what a lot of people believe. So we have to be quite strategic with it. So we use lots of different, I guess, elements to gain and gather information. Social media trails, obviously. We have a lot of assets that I'm not going to speak about and give away our tactics online. But our biggest asset to me is people, right? People who we really need to share the information because they see or they can feel when something's going to kick off. And you know what's really unique about Bermuda being small, right? You have to find that balance between being pokey and intervention, right? Some people don't want to say, hey, they don't want to really be in people's business, right? So sometimes when things are at that extreme level where you don't want another incident that we had a couple of weeks ago on a Sunday, if you are aware things are to that level, then I think it's time to step in, right? It's beyond being pokey. That's a big thing in Bermuda. I've noticed over the years as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, like the people, right? And it gets me to, what do the police need from the community to help? Because I quoted yesterday or a couple of days ago that someone on social media had said that Bermudians love to gossip, but they don't like to talk, or
Right.
or speak up. And my life's surveilled, right? When I say that is, you get in my car, first thing you hear, the camera go on, right? I have cameras, for my own protection more than anything. I live in a crazy place. But even from that standpoint, I know the police, we're in an era now where we're asking for dash cam video, we're asking for ring cameras and the like from a community police perspective, what can the community do? Like, do you want people like living that kind of life where like me, like if possible, for your own protection, sell the surveillance. Some people feel like they don't want a big brother themselves. Is it just about speaking up if you know something, or being an asset in another way?
Yeah, I mean, all of those things, Teo, all of those things are quite helpful in a technological society that we now live in. Ring cameras and people with phone cameras and video and the like, and we've made it quite easy because the police have designed a portal where you can upload a lot of this stuff without even having to call the police. We have a lot of local police that live within the community that I'm sure if you don't know the police officer personally, someone that personally is going to know the police officer where you can share the information. So there are lots of ways where you can share information. And I don't want to sound insensitive because obviously if you live in a close-knit neighborhood and someone's doing something that they shouldn't be doing and you spill the beans, so to speak, and that person then targets you, I recognize that can happen, right? So the police try to build in mechanisms whereby we protect people's safety. We don't expect people to risk their lives to give away information. But of course, if you sit and do nothing, then it becomes painfully worse because at the end of the day, you're going to become the target if we don't all stick together and try to weed out, because it's a lot more of the good than the persons that are doing bad. So I think if we all stick together, we can we can weed them out and make the community a lot better place to live.
Indeed, indeed, and we've had those conversations for years now. But I want to go to 2019 because Taylor and myself were discussing this last week as well. That in 2019, Bermuda didn't record a murder. I think when Maya and I have had this conversation regarding road fatalities as well, is the road fatalities may have been reduced, but the collisions may have been increased. I don't know if you have any data in terms of how many shootings actually took place that year, but people are looking at the fact that there was no murder. Can you explain what happened differently in that year versus previous years and years since? Why there may have been no murders in 2019?
Yeah, we've reviewed this data over and over, and actually I can explain it because when you look at the data, it's nothing different. The police didn't do anything markedly different in 2019 that they did in 2018 or 2020. Of course, we adopt this evidence-based approach whereby we learn from our errors or we learn from other jurisdictions and the like. But if you look at 2018, for example, I just have the paper here in front of me. If you look at 2018, for example, we had 9 confirmed shootings, and we had 3 persons shot. Right, that was the year before 2019. But if you look at 2019, the correlation really doesn't really work because we had 1 less confirmed shooting, the same amount of injuries, but 0 fatalities. So it just means that the shooters in 2019 weren't as accurate as the shooters in 2018 because you had the same amount of shots fired. And then in 2020, it gets worse because you had 3 times as many firearms confirmed incidents and 2 fatalities. So the correlation doesn't really work. I think that some years we just there's probably some dynamics that are different. You may have some persons that are in prison. You may have some persons that are off early. You may have some persons that don't really get that opportunity to take a shot, and when they do, as I said just now, they're not as accurate. So there's no real different change of tactics, I would say, from a policing perspective, that realized that result. So yes, we were working hard as we do all the time, but I don't want to say we want to take all of the credit for it being shooting, because as we know, even if the police were to, I don't know who all the shooters are and arrest everybody, who is stopping the new shooters from being created? And I'll give you an example. In 2008, 2009, when all of these shootings, began in this high volume, those persons, they're not the ones shooting today. So what that tells you is that somehow the community are creating these, young men that are hell bent on killing each other. Why is that? That's the problem we need to solve, because by the time it gets to the police, it's almost too late. Because our job is, to detect, and of course we prevent a number of shootings just by the way we deploy and the like. But we don't from a psychological perspective, if someone has in their mind that they want to shoot somebody, that's not the role of the police to try to reverse that type of thinking. So the police are there from a more detect and deter perspective rather than the psychological. So I think where we need to put the work is how do we recreate constructive young men as opposed to trying to fix broken, we try to build constructive kids as opposed to try to fix broken men, because it doesn't really correlate. It's not going to work. Once something is broken, what we're talking about, prevention is better than cure, right? And and that's where I think it lies, is we need and I don't like to step on anyone's toes, but I think we need a comprehensive plan as to from soup to nuts. So from prevention from the beginning, if they slip through the cracks, what do we do in the next step? Because the police have a strategic plan of how they're gonna deal with stuff, but to work in isolation makes no sense. So it's almost like tomorrow, if you want to build a house, right? You have a set of plans. So that means the plumber knows what it's doing, the electrician, the mason, everybody has a plot on the plan. In Bermuda, all this evidence around her that from 2008 to 2024, Black people are shooting Black people. We have not taken that evidence and used that data to construct the plan, and the other people in other countries have. Why haven't we done that? And it's still happening every day.
Couple things. I want to go back to the start of what you said, which was probably the least political answer we've probably ever had regarding anything. When you said we really didn't do anything different. That was probably the most honest answer we've probably had about anything, because it's easy to take credit for, well, we did this differently, but it's sometimes, and I hate to say this in this manner, but it comes down to luck and luck of life, meaning that your shooters were not successful in their targets. So I appreciate the honesty. The second part you just said, in terms of I always say on this show, and again, I'll repeat, I don't like to compare people to dogs. But you said it, right? Is you don't train a dog, you train a puppy, right? It's the same with children versus broken men. We understand that. We have to reach them when their minds are still soft and they're like sponges, and we can get to them. I think using the data that you guys have as an organization that acts on intelligence, that I think the community would agree we need a comprehensive plan. I think we can all agree, as we discussed the other day on this show, that there are a ton of inequities that lead to this. I just said this morning, the Belco bill's going up, how that could impact a single family, right? Where one parent has to go out and work extra jobs. Well, who's home raising a child or helping them with the homework and stuff like that? So I think we kind of know. It's just about, like you said, where's the comprehensive plan to address it? And I think that's where we're far off, Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and when you throw in, as I heard you and Teo talking about, this 8% hike in Balco, when you throw in all of those, type of factors, cost of living, so that means people do have to be out of the home more. You have a community now, right, that's more diverse than ever, right? So you have lots of persons that are from different cultures trying to coexist in Bermuda. That in itself can create some trauma. People are living longer, so obviously the money is stretched further. We have kind of like what we call a housing crisis. People can't find affordable home. Our education system's kind of evolving right now. We have this big thing around mental illness. The other big thing people are not looking at is this confusion around, and I don't really like to touch on this subject because it's very controversial. This confusion around this 7 grams of cannabis. You can possess 7 grams of cannabis, but you can't smoke it. You can't do anything. Why do you possess? So people ask these type of questions. THC levels in cannabis have now changed from when we were growing up. And many youth, don't have those type of conflict management skills that we had. So instead of saying, "Hey, let's talk this out," they stab each other. I mean, I'm being a bit extreme, but this is kind of what we're dealing with. So all I'm saying is that if you don't, get in there early and try to really construct these positive and progressive fears, which we have a lot of, then you're gonna have these issues, and you have a lot of examples of that. Where I remember a few years ago, I was up at the National Stadium, watching my son play football in a under 15s a match, and right there, in front of 200 people, you have one of the football players stabbing one of the persons coming there to fight him. I mean, with a knife, he goes to his gear bag, which is supposed to have his football boots and football pads, and takes out a knife. So these are the types of things that, unfortunately, we're dealing with today in Bermuda. And that's why people prefer now to stay home rather than take the risk and coming out, which is not a society that we want to create.
Indeed. Audience, if you have any questions or comments for Assistant Commissioner Daniels, please send them through. We'll get through as many as possible. I want to shift gears a bit because quite a few people last week were making social media posts, sending out prayers for first responders and keeping you all in our thoughts. How are officers and their families able to cope with this level of violence in our community?
Well, I mean, when you look at it today, Jamal, police officers, first responders, obviously those persons at the in the medical institution as well are dealing with more trauma than ever before, right? So it is quite difficult. I mean, I can give you a few instances of whereby they were traumatic and they were outside of when it was murder. Like, I mean, one of the big ones that impacted me really, really big was a couple of years ago when the car drove off into the water in Harrington Sound, and and a young kid lost their life, right? So you have first responders and other persons there, trying to save that young kid. So those are the type of traumatic things to face with not every day, but quite often. And in these last 6 weeks, for the police, you've had a number of officers that have been to the same officers have been to multiple reasons, and to show you how this impacts the community so much. Two of our most popular prominent pubs, right? We've had, as you saw in the newspaper the other day, we had a shooting at Robin Hood. During that shooting, when two persons got murdered, a policeman was shot, right? We had another incident not long after that up at Divots, where a young man was tackled when he came there to try to shoot somebody. A policeman was there off duty as well. So the policemen, like everybody else, are embedded in this community, and we take lots and lots of steps, mainly through our crisis incident management team, to ensure that our officers' psychological health is looked after, because it's not only them, they have a family just like everybody else. Policing is a job. It's a different type of job than many. It's probably more challenging, more difficult than a lot of other day-to-day jobs. But just like everyone else, they have a family, they have kids, mothers, brothers, sisters. So we have to ensure that their psychological health is taken care of, and we have lots and lots of measures in place to ensure that.
Indeed. Definitely appreciate the work being done. Again, audience, if you have any questions or comments, you can send them through. Charles H. Jefferson II, he's asking, I've noticed the higher police presence in the West. There seems to be some profiling with those being stopped. Is there a fear of criticism?
Okay, so last week, I think it was last week, Monday or Tuesday, I actually came on the air in our press conference, and I actually expressed to people that I actually warned people that the police presence from then until cut match is going to be crazy. And I actually warned people, and it's in the Royal Gazette in writing and it's recorded, to leave home early or wherever you are a bit earlier, because we will be exercising our powers under pace, under the criminal code and the like, to stop people, because unless we do these types of things, these unfortunate acts will continue. So in terms of criticism, yeah, we have, as in my role, as the assistant commissioner, I have to expect and accept that I'm going to be criticized, of course. And I sometimes I get praised, sometimes I get criticized. So I have to have tough skin. Of course, I expect our officers to act professionally, and not target persons because of what they look like. Of course, I don't expect our officers to act inappropriately. However, I would say it again in this forum. Hey, we will be out there. We will be in full force. And the areas that I said in particular were Sanders, were Northeast Hamilton, particularly Frizzle Seal and Court Street, and these types of areas where information say us that this is where the highest risk harm is at the time. And we have cut match coming up. We have the big beach, what we used to call the big beach fest coming up, the Thursday of Cup Match. We have a large concert coming up in Dockyard the night before Cup Match. So we will be out in force. So I make no apologies for that, but I do expect our officers to conduct themselves professionally and according to their training.
All righty. We've got a question from Traveling Trotty. She's asking, is the use of Crime Stoppers hotline utilized much?
Not enough. So I'm someone that's really greedy for information, and I use that word greedy because, or thirsty might be a better word, because the more information you have, the better sight picture you can paint, right? And it's better for us to either prevent or solve, a problem. So Crime Stoppers, I would say that no, it's not used enough. Yes, we do get our fair share of information from there, if that's your question, but I encourage people to use it more. And like I said, the police, because through the use of the police portal, which is a new thing, technology is really, really critical. So if someone tells you something, it's always a lot better to see it. So if you upload video or you upload audio, it's be a lot more easier for the police to get the full context of what's going on. So we invite anyone with information to share it wherever medium they're comfortable.
All right. Mark Arthur C. Phillips is asking, should homeowners consider getting home security cameras? Well, before you answer that, it goes back to the whole thing of Bermudians gossiping but not speaking up. People love to forward WhatsApp videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And you see in these videos, recently you've seen videos sent where people are stealing bikes or breaking into homes and doing the like. Is this something that has helped the police? Like, do people send this to the police, or they just go through WhatsApp? But to answer his question, your thoughts on people having home security?
Well, I don't want to be the advocate for getting someone additional business, but what I will recommend is that you should do some type of survey of where you live. I mean, if you particularly believe that you live in an area where you feel that is necessary, then yes, I'm not just going to tell everybody, hey, you should just go out and get cameras, because I don't think that's logical, right? But if you live in a particular area, or you work on a particular job, or you have something valuable in and around your yard, or you just want to better protect your home and property, then yeah, I would, because they're not really expensive these days. I mean, as the assistant commissioner of police, of course, I have that type of stuff around my house, because I like to see what's happening when I'm not there. I mean, that's obviously it's a could be potential threat because of the role I play. But like I said, yeah, I think they are helpful, but you have to measure and do a survey of what your needs, needs assessment before you just go in and buy a camera just for the sake of buying a camera. Because for example, you may live in an area where all the houses around you already have cameras. So in order to get to your particular property, they have to come buy another property. So you may be able to get the information there. So it's all these considerations before you just go out and spend money and buy a camera. But yeah, I would advise anyone, if they want to increase their security, that a camera is the way to go.
I something came up yesterday or day before, and I guess it just hit me as you were speaking about cameras. We were talking about solving this problem we have, and people are saying speak to the young men at Westgate. Now I know the police have a rule, right? But just doing things differently, do the police have in their strategy to actually engage people who are in prison, who have been convicted, and to these guys don't want to be there? So I watch a lot of TV. You can tell when it comes to true crime. So I know true crime in the US, they do a lot of, not necessarily deals, but talk to inmates about cases they may have information on. Does that work take place, or are you not allowed to say for the safety of others?
I mean, in terms of having a program where we speak to inmates, I would say no, because I don't think an inmate wants to speak to the police. Generally, anyway, I don't think the inmate are gonna want to speak to us. But I when I was talking about earlier about this evidence-based approach to solving problems, right? If we had a system whereby we can debrief um, inmates, persons incarcerated, then that would be great because they're going to inform in the future how we do or not do something. Because obviously from their feedback, we will probably or likely, not even probably likely amend our tactics in a way. Although things evolve all the time, right? So if someone is up investigating, they got caught, they're probably likely to tell the next person or the next person who saw them get caught if they were listening to the court case and all the information. They're likely to try to amend our behavior, even though maybe I'm giving some people too much credit because often the common theme is two up on a bike, somebody with a firearm in the back, and they're shooting at people. But yeah, it's quite difficult. Although yeah, I said this all the time. I wouldn't mind being able to debrief inmates just to find out their thinking, and a larger part of that I think is the psychological part. Why did you do it as opposed to what? Because if you can deal with the why, then you can reach a lot of our other young sisters and brothers that are coming up behind us to try to deter them and stir them away from this type of behavior. So I think that's quite important to use even inmates maybe in the school setting and in the awareness and education piece, because they can speak firsthand, what has happened to them. I think that's quite critical. But from a wider context, no, we don't speak to inmates in that particular program that you asked about.
All right. Suzanne Ingham says, Officer Daniels, I greatly appreciate all you and your officers do. Thank you very much. Before we head out, just want to go back to Crime Stoppers. You have Crime Stoppers. You always speak about at the end of your press conferences that people can speak to a police officer that they know. But what more? I mean, the police do a great job of trying to encourage people to speak up and come forward. But what more can people do to help prevent? And when I say prevent, someone knows that someone's about to go and do something, right?
Yeah.
What more can people do to prevent or help solve an incident? Because at the end of the day, I think Bermudians have a tendency. My calculation, Bermuda is so small. Why can't we solve this stuff, right? I think people have a tendency to think like that. But then there's the part, then the police arrest, prosecution prosecutes, and then a case is thrown out, as happened recently.
Yes.
Right? Then what? We just forget about it and move on. So what can the people do? Like what more can the police do to encourage people to speak up?
I mean, for me, I kind of have a vision or a dream that Bermuda's a place that's self-policed, right? Where people are actually, speaking up to each other, where they're saying, "Hey, listen, you shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't be doing this." It's almost in a way whereby the police are called when you can't, solve a problem. That's I think a society such as that is kind of a vision or dream for me. I wish in Bermuda we had that where before. I know it's a pipe dream, but that is kind of what I wish for. But in terms of speaking up, I think it's quite difficult because often we have this mentality, and I remember, and y'all football fanatics, so you remember, I don't know if you remember, obviously you remember Arsene Wenger, who was the Arsenal coach. He says everybody, believes they have the prettiest wife, right? And all he is basically saying is, it's just like now today, everybody thinks that I have the greatest Kia, that my Kia doesn't do anything wrong, right? So it's quite difficult for, particularly parents when they see their kids turning the wrong way to turn to someone like the police or some other helping agency to say, "Hey, listen, I've exhausted all of my avenues," or before it gets to that stage, can you give me some advice and some assistance on how I can, steer little Mikey or Johnny back on the right track. So it's quite difficult for people in that sense to really assist, because everybody's kind of got that closed mentality. I want to do it myself. On my kid is based, he did something bad or she did something bad, but it's basically a good kid. And in today's society, I'm gonna tell you what, in today's society, like as I tell you, because the younger generation doesn't have those conflict management skills, or they don't consider that conflict management in a big way. You can be a good kid, right? And you can do something really stupid or really bad at one time, and then you lose your life because, and it sounds ridiculous, but that's what's happening. Because when you're finding out the rationale as to, or the reasons why someone lost their life or was seriously injured, when you think about it, like, it was for that. So it's that type of thing. So for me, I don't know if I can say any more around how we can get people to help, because I mean, I even remember one time I was speaking to my doctor, who is an old colleague of mine. He told me, listen, Mr. Daniels, maybe not you particularly, but yeah, you to some extent, because he has to throw me under the bus as well. And he says, listen, when you police officers go on the news and you say, hey, we need witnesses to come forward, you guys are being insensitive. And I said, what you mean? And he explained it to me. You know, people have to live in this society to just go and say, hey, Jack shot Drew is quite different, because the person can point the firearm at them. So for me, although I don't agree kind of with that argument, I recognize that he has a view, right? Because if that was to happen, the police are going to take all measures to make sure that nothing happens to any witness. And knock on wood, if you look at the history across the years, I think we've done a great job of ensuring any of our key witnesses are free from harm. I mean, even though sometimes they may have a slight fear, we have taken every opportunity to make sure, you know, left no stone unturned to make sure that if someone wants to come forward in the future, they can look at this person and say, hey, listen, they were safe and this. And then the other big thing, Jamal, which I think is the most important thing, right? If you say, hey, listen, I saw this happen, or I think this is going to go on, but I'm not saying anything. What happens is, in the future, it comes to a place near you. And it's happened over, and I said this way back in 2004, if we don't tackle the problem now, it's going to get worse, and it's going to come to a place near you. Now, look how many times we've had people come to people's homes or in a restaurant, and shootings and all of this stuff's been carried out at schools. It's because people don't stick together and say, listen, it's more of us than them. Let's beat these people out. It's the same as when we were growing up in our individual neighborhoods, right? And you had groups of guys will come into the neighborhood and create trouble. The neighbors together would say, hey, listen, you guys are not welcome here. And when you do that enough and you stand up to this, they move. And we have to, in today's world, if we don't do that, then the good are going to suffer for the bad. I'm sorry, I can't put it any more simpler than that. We have to stick together.
Yeah, indeed. Community unity is definitely needed. Assistant Commissioner Daniels, thank you so much for the conversation this morning. Hopefully, the information is, utilized in a way that can actually create a safer space for everyone in our community. Before you head out, just remind people of, if they have information about anything that can help prevent or resolve and solve any of these incidents in our community, just let them know what they can do if they have any information they'd like to share.
Well, it's a lot, as you have tons of options today, because you have Crime Stoppers, which is the numbers clearly out there. The police, if you go to the police website, they have various portals where you can upload and share information. It's like I said, if you know a police officer, you can shoot him or her an email, or give them a call. You can call. We have a really easy number to remember now, our 211 line. If you have a non-emergency something you want to report or share information, they will direct you. So there are tons of ways with today's technological advances where you can share information. If you have CCTV where you think something suspicious or the likes under, there's ways you can have some one could either come reviewed or come show someone. You can upload it. There are so many different ways, Jamal, where people today can share information without having to interact. If you're not comfortable with interacting with the police without having to interact with the police directly.
All right. Thank you so much for this conversation. I have one more question if you have a minute from the audience. Rosalind Famous just asking, what information can the police share with the community about what they know about gangs?
I don't really like to use the word gangs, but yeah, so organized crime groups or the youngsters that are engaged in this type of behavior that we advise against. It's pretty common the world over. They're usually denoted or they mark each other by the tattoos and various marks and various signs they use to identify themselves. But in terms of what they do is the normal thing, steal bikes. They really come together kind of as their I guess, relative or non-blood family, because it's obviously something that's being missed at home. And they come together to really socialize in their way, but often that leads to maybe the sale of drugs to make money, may lead to the theft of bikes, to either sell parts or commit further crimes. It also may lead to congregating in particular areas, as we see in and around the island. And the other big thing, the other sad part, involves violence. So sometimes you may get some type of initiation thing where you have to either hurt somebody or shoot somebody or do something, which is unfortunate. But the other thing I really want to make key is not to label every person because you see them hanging out somewhere or with somebody as a gang member. That really frustrates me that some of our young males are really crowned with these outrageous names that he's a gang member because I saw him or her in this particular area of this particular person. Please, that's really, really offensive. And we just need to be mindful that in Bermuda, if you want to talk about gangs, I don't believe this thing about we have 300 gang members. I think that's nonsense. I think we have less than 100 hardcore young individuals that are out there that are geared towards hurting people. And lots of times, I think what happens is, and has happened before, is a lot of our young men who are frightened, maybe walking around with a knife, and if someone is engaging them in the wrong way and they pull out the knife, the only thing they can do is use it, right? So I just would advise our young men and women not to carry on knives, because if you have the knife, you're more likely to use it if you're involved in conflict, as opposed to taking some other measure, and that can get you in trouble. Someone can lose their life, you can lose your life, you can get seriously injured. That doesn't make sense. So for me, it's just a big thank you for all of those people that have so far assisted the police. I hope that more come forward and recognize that without you, there's no us. So we definitely need your support and assistance. And those persons that are going to come forward in the future, I thank you as well. And I hope that we get lots and lots of key information after this presentation. It's not rocket science. We need clear sight picture in order to tackle these serious problems that we have today.
All right, Commissioner Daniels, thank you so much for the conversation again. And please keep in touch if there's anything that we can share. Again, I think you mentioned earlier in the show that there was a road fatality confirmed today, correct?
Yes, there was a road fatality confirmed that happened last Thursday. The young man that was involved in the accident last week, Thursday night in St. David's, St. George's, tragically has succumbed to his injuries.
So definitely sending warm thoughts, condolences to the friends and family. And again, we look forward to having more positive conversations with you in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Please, Commissioner Antoine Daniels, folks, if you appreciated that conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Gamarino says, Crime Stoppers, 800-8477, Portal Police, as well as 211 or 295-0011 if you have any information on anything. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. Be back in 1 minute 47 seconds. 2 minutes 19 seconds as we're going to do a giveaway and wrap up today's show. Stick with us.
Hot summer, even hotter deals. Beat the heat with BAC's Cut Match Special. Save hundreds of dollars on our energy-saving Carrier high-efficiency mini-split units. And get a free Celio Breeze smart thermostat with any mini-split system purchase. Want even more deals? Get 10% off all of our 29-inch Comfort Zone oscillating fans, our Comfort Air Window AC cooling units, and our Hunter ceiling fans when you purchase with cash. This summer, don't just battle the heat. Beat the heat with BAC. Offer valid through August 3rd or while supplies last.
Bermuda's favorite trivia game is now a game show.
What's up, Bermuda? My name is Patrina O'Connor-Painter, aka Power Girl Trina, and I'd like to welcome you to Bermuda Trivia. You ready? We're gonna be talking about people and places. I'm serious.
Now, have you heard about Bermuda Trivia before?
Yeah.
Okay, so you think you'd be able to answer some of these questions?
Just wait and see. Go to www.bermudatrivia.com. Get more information about it. Get the game. Play it with your family. Educate yourselves. Really?
If I get this wrong.
How much do you know?
Bermuda Trivia, the game show, brought to you by Bacardi. Premieres on Monday, July 8th, only on bcgtv.com. Subscribe today.
Take a look at our workwear for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places, and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Pair with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear. You can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Big Show. Thanks again to Assistant Commissioner of Police Antoine Daniels. Folks, if you appreciated today's conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medical House Lenders, and People's Pharmacy for supporting our efforts to have these community conversations on a regular basis. It is time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, audience, it's a music-related question, and here's your question of the day. You know how it goes. A first person to answer correctly on my screen will be eligible for this week's prize. All right. It's music related. Which artist recorded Smooth, the 2000 Grammy winner for Record of the Year? Which artist recorded Smooth, the 2000 Grammy winner for Record of the Year? No one got it. No, it's not Sade. It's not Sade. Suzanne Ingham looks concerned. It's not that face either. You doing the emoji thing. Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, I really should know this. Well, Stacey Ann Brown did know it. It is Santana. Charles H. Jeffs II also got it. Yeah, Santana. Is Santana the same person as Carlos Santana? Anyway, let's add Stacey Ann Brown in there. She joins Mark Arthur C. Phillips and Suzanne in this week's draw. All right, folks, got to run. But I just want to say, look, as far as the Belco bills, I think I'm going to stick with Shamari Sky's comment earlier. You know, at times we have to turn our anger and disappointment and disgust into inspiration. And sometimes it's about finding those loopholes and ways that we can, find joy in all that's wrong. Obviously, no one wants to pay more, but maybe we don't have to if we think beyond the norm. As far as the conversation with Assistant Commissioner of Police Antoine Daniels, look, I love, being a black male. I love black males. I hate to see us losing our lives in the most senseless manner. I want us to understand love. I want us to appreciate our existence enough to value not just our own lives, but the lives of others. We are special. We are needed. We are human. We've got to understand that our existence on this earth is not by accident. We are here to make a difference and do for one another. So my hope is that there are less mothers crying and burying their sons, and there are more of us sons lifting up our brothers in celebration of achievements that benefit not only themselves, but their families and their community. Your brother is not your enemy. I hope we can understand that at the very least. Here's your daily inspiration. Quote, life consists not in holding good cards, but in playing those you hold well, end quote. That's by Josh Billings. Folks, please don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy, for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making this part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. If you haven't already, do us that favor. Help us beat the algorithm. Whatever platform you're on, give us a like, love, follow, subscribe, share the conversation with your friends, your family, and your colleagues. I'm Jamel Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day, my friends. I am out. Peace.